Many Americans know so little about history. A Marist poll asked people, what country did the United States declare independence from? 26% were not sure. That's a problem. But another problem is that what people think they do know is often wrong. And there are plenty of examples of that in this book, The Believing Brain, From Ghosts and Gods to Politics and Conspiracies. It's a new book from science historian Michael Shermer. And for this show, we're just talking history myths, so what are some?
One of the myths of history is that history somehow unfolds in this beautiful, coordinated, lockstep, logical fashion, which only makes sense after the fact. So I talk about the hindsight bias, for example, that after an event, you can look back and trace the causal chain. Like, why didn't Bush act on that August 9th memo that Condoleezza Rice got that Al-Qaeda will strike on United States soil? Well, because that was one of about 2,000 pieces of information that came to the State Department that summer.
But you just hear about that one memo.
That's right. So we remember the hits, we forget the misses, we notice the events after the fact, but not before. So history, in fact, is chaotic, it's contingent, it's accidental, weird things happen. Like, I have a whole discussion of the assassination of Franz Ferdinand that triggered the First World War. This was a conspiracy by Serbian nationalists that wanted independence from Austria-Hungarian Empire, and Franz Ferdinand was going to Sarajevo to give the speech, and they plotted it all out, and they had everything lined up, but nothing went right. The one guy didn't get the right weapon, another guy chickened out, a third guy missed, a fourth guy's gun jammed, a fifth guy threw the hand grenade, it bounced off the back of the car and went underneath the car behind him, it blew up, some people were injured. The Franz Ferdinand was fine, he drove off, gave a speech, turned around, drove back to the hospital, and he's going down the same boulevard, and the last assassin is sitting there despondent on the curb eating a sandwich, and here he comes, and he just goes, "Oh, thank you very much," boom, shoots him. That's how history really unfolds. It's chaotic, it's contingent, but after the fact, we look back and try to find some secret hidden organization there.
Your book's subtitle is How We Construct Beliefs and Reinforce Them as Truths.
Right, so the way it works is that our beliefs come first, the reasons for beliefs come second. How we were raised, what culture forces, our peer groups, mentors, teachers, and so forth shape our beliefs, and then after the fact we go in search of evidence to support them.
You write that it's a myth that the Founding Fathers were believing Christians.
Yes, so,
I thought they were.
Well, in a way, they're sort of deist, liberal Christians. They had a kind of a general belief in a creator, but nothing like modern evangelical Christians who would like to back into history modern beliefs about Christianity. That's another one of these great myths, that the Founding Fathers were like us, modern evangelical Christians. No, that wasn't the case at all.
And how do you know that's not the case?
Well, we have their letters, we have their original diaries, we know what they believed because they told us what they believed.
But In God We Trust has been on the currency since the 1850s.
The beautiful thing about the Constitution and the American experiment was that our founders were in fact scientists. They were natural philosophers, they practiced science. They talked about the American experiment with democracy, and it's like a scientific experiment where they said, look, we don't know how to govern, nobody does, so let's set it up in a way that can constantly change and collect new data and rerun the experiment. They're called elections. So every 4 years we'll throw the bums out and bring some new bums in, and we'll try and tweak the variables. We'll try this tax rate and that legal system, and then we'll change it if it doesn't go well. Well, science works that way. We run an experiment, we collect data, we see how it goes, we rerun it, we tweak the variables, because we don't know the truth. Nobody does with a capital T truth. We're just trying to provisionally understand how the world works. So I really think democracy and science are actually pretty closely related in that sense.
And I should tell the audience you're wearing this pin that says Skeptic. He runs a magazine called Skeptic, which covers a lot of this,
yeah.
And I have stolen stories from.
That's why we're
often.
here.
Another myth, you say, that humans, years ago, native peoples were just naturally peace-loving and lived in eco-harmony with the environment.
Long, long ago,
and then the Europeans came and messed it up. Capitalism corrupted them.
The myth of the noble savage. This is one of the deepest historical myths that has actually deep social policy implications. If you believe that people before civilization lived in peaceful harmony, they never fought, it means our nature is infinitely flexible, peaceful, loving, kind, altruistic, and we don't have this dark side because it's only brought about through imperialism and capitalism and colonialism and all the evils of Western civilization. That is one of these great myths that have been around for decades, since the 60s. Archaeologically, we now know that long before Europeans came to America, the Native Americans were very tribal and warlike, way more than we ever were as Europeans. That the percentage of the males who died, for example, in conflicts was way higher than it is even in the 20th century. We have artifacts, we have arrowheads, spears inside human skeletons. They killed each other. We even had cannibalism examples. We know that they deforested most of New England before the first European came here. They were destroying their environment. They were doing everything people do because that's what we do. We expand out and we use resources, and before we understood the long-term consequences of that, that's what people do. So they are like us. They're not noble savages. And so that's another of these great myths. Again, that has political implications. If you believe that, you're going to engineer social policy from the top down and say, look, we can end crime by taxing more and giving more money to the poor, because we know that poverty leads to criminality. No, we actually know that there's a whole other set of causes, that you have to assume that there is some human nature to us.
Thank you, Michael Shermer. Coming up, I'll tell you about my take on the biggest myths of history.